One guys. All right. Now it's on. Okay.
Yeah, hello.
All right. I've been sensing that we need to talk a little bit more about quadratics, just a little bit to make sure people are understanding certain things. Some stuff I taught at the beginning of. I can't believe this. I'm on. Okay, it didn't work again. Okay. Does anybody know how that works with like calling another country like that?
Sometimes.
Facebook,
Why is it that it keeps? He uses an American. I'm on the video. Never mind. We'll talk about this later. What am I doing? Understanding quadratics. Okay, using the vertex form. We're going to talk about quadratics a little bit at the beginning of learning quadratics. I sort of dissected the y equals ax squared plus bx plus c to talk about what those different numbers mean. And I think I need to redo that because I think some people have forgotten that stuff. Also, I want to talk about a different form that you will see quadratics written in. It's a very, very useful form. If you recall with straight lines, I taught you there were 3 useful ways to write equations. Remember that? So there was the slope-intercept, y equals mx plus b. There was the point slope, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And then there was standard form, ax plus by equals c, right? So you had those 3. Those were 3 useful ways to write equations for straight lines. Now we're talking quadratics, they're parabolas, right? And the only kind of equation I've taught you so far is what's called the standard form, which is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, right? I want to go over that first, and then I'm going to show you a vertex form, which is really useful. And you'll see why soon, because it's like you can graph it instantly. I mean, instantly. That's why it's so useful. Some people don't even use the negative x equals negative b over 2a. They just convert an equation into the vertex form. And then immediately they can graph it. Immediately. So, but we won't get that far today, but we'll at least identify what the vertex form is. And then maybe tomorrow I will show you how to convert something from standard form into the vertex form. So first of all, let's look at this. We've got y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Now that is in standard form. That is standard form. Oh, should have written that first. Well, anyway, that's standard form. Standard form, at least for a quadratic, right? That's standard form. So y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Let's talk about what each of these letters represent and what they do. Okay? So first of all, the a. The a. There's 2 things. First of all, if a is positive, then a parabola opens which way? Upwards or downwards?
Upwards.
Upwards. Okay? If negative, then parabola opens down. Right? But there's one other thing that A does. That's just really the sign. The sign of A means it's going to be a happy face or a frowny face, right? But there's one other thing that A does, and it actually determines whether the graph is skinny or fat. The parabola is really, really skinny or really, really fat. So let me think. If A is let's see, as A gets larger, how do I say that? As A increases, can I just do an arrow for increases? Is that okay? As A increases, parabola gets skinnier. Skinnier, is that right? I don't know how you spell it. As A decreases, parabola gets fatter. Okay? So an example would be y is equal to 12x squared. That would be extremely skinny. That would be starting at 0, 0. It would be, right, very skinny. Y is equal to 1/4 x squared. Y would be very fat. I mean, the parabola would be very fat. Okay? When it's less than 1 in particular, when it's a fraction, when a is a fraction, it gets really wide. Okay? And obviously, as I make it even smaller fractions, 1/16th would be even wider. 1/200th would be unbelievably wide, right? Those kind of things. As it gets smaller, it gets fatter. So that's A. That's what A does. Determines whether it's a smiley face or a frowny face, and it determines whether it's narrow or fat, right? B, all B does, B is what makes it move. It moves the graph. Moves. Let's see. I'll say the vertex. Vertex left or right. Moves the vertex left or right. Remember that formula for axis of symmetry to find your x. X is equal to negative b over 2a. Because of that negative b there, that's what moves it this way. That's what's moving the x away from 0. If b were 0, then x would be 0. The axis of symmetry would be 0. That means I wouldn't move away from the y-axis. If b is 0, so meaning if b is equal to 0, then vertex is on the y-axis. On y-axis. That's really important to know. So I hope you guys are writing these down because these are important. Sorry. All right, and then C, that moves the vertex up or down. Whoops. Moves the vertex up or down. So we're going to talk about these for a second, and I'm going to give you some examples. So let's say I said this. Y, let's say we have this equation. Y is equal to 5x squared. Okay? Y equals 5x squared. So I'm going to ask you three questions. I'm going to ask, does it open upwards? What are the coordinates of the vertex? And what is the equation for the axis of symmetry? So I'm going to say, first of all, does it open upwards or downwards? How many people say up? How many people say down? Okay. So the A is what? The A is what? 5. The A is positive. Therefore, the parabola is happy. He's thinking positive thoughts. He's happy. He's going to. So number one, it opens upwards, right? Okay, you guys, do you understand this now, Jason?
Yes.
You get that?
I get that.
It's not whether x is positive or negative. It's whether a is positive or negative. You were getting confused because you thought x were negative. Right.
You feel better now?
Yeah, okay. So number 2, it says, I want to know the coordinates of the vertex. Coordinates of vertex. Remember coordinate is x comma y in parentheses, right? That's your coordinates. So what would the coordinates of the vertex be? In order to find it, you use negative b over 2a, right? To find your x of the vertex, remember that?
Bless you.
So I'm going to find, first of all, x is equal to negative b over 2a. Well, what is b? Would you agree with that, John?
Yeah.
Plus 0x plus 0, right? My b is 0 and my c is 0, right? Yes? See what I mean? So That means if I have a b of 0 in the numerator, that means my x is 0, right? Because 0 in the numerator means it's going to be 0. So x is equal to 0. And then now I plug it in to find my y. So I know I have 0 comma what? If this is 0, what's y? 0. So my vertex, the coordinates of my vertex are 0 comma 0. Is that clear? Be sure you know this because the homework is all on this. Okay? Be sure you're clear. If you have questions, ask. So we figured out our vertex, and in the process we figured out the third answer. Because the third answer, the question was, what's the equation of the axis of symmetry? Axis of, is this still on the thing? Okay. Axis of symmetry. Right? What's the equation of the axis of symmetry? Yeah, except that we solved it already. So x equals 0. That's what it would be. And you would do just that. Yeah, x equals negative b over 2a and plug everything in. And whatever you get, x equals 0 in this case, that's your axis of symmetry. X equals 0. Okay? And if x is 0, if you have a graph, if x is 0 means you start at 0, 0, and you don't go right or left because x is 0. That means my axis of symmetry is the y-axis. Does that make sense? So here's my vertex at 0, 0. Put a dot there. And then if I were going to graph it, it would be standard parabolic I times 5, right? Over 1, up 1 times 5, somewhere up here. Over 1, up 1 times 5, somewhere up here. Over 2, up 4 times 5, up 20, right? Over 2, up 20, so way up here, right? So it's going to be a nice narrow graph, right? Because it's 5x squared. As that a starts getting bigger, it's going to get narrower. Okay? You with me so far?
Well, we can't see it over.
I'm sorry.
So,
Gary, come.
Do you want to sit here?
it's okay.
All right. Can I erase all this because you got this? You have this in your in your notes. So let's try a couple more. Let's try this one. So let's say y is equal to x squared plus 4. Okay, y is equal to x squared plus 4. Okay, I'm going to ask these three questions. Does it open upwards or downwards? What is a, first of all? 1, right? It's the number in front of the x squared. A is 1. It's positive. So it's going to open which way? Upwards, right? Okay, next question. Coordinate of the vertex. What is b?
4, 0.
Yeah, think of it. It's really x squared plus 0x plus 4. So we have a c that's 4. B is 0. And immediately when we know that b is 0, we know... Sorry. I don't know what to do about this. See? This stops. All right.
What if Raina calls?
If b is 0, where was I? What was my train of thought? We're trying to find the coordinate of the vertex, right? If b is 0, x is 0. Always. If b is 0, x is 0. So I immediately know if b is 0, my first part of my coordinates are going to be 0. The x is 0. Because b is in the numerator. If b is 0, x is 0. X is 0. Therefore 0 comma what? Plug in x, plug in 0 for x. Y is equal to 4. Oh, that was the one other thing I didn't mention about the c. C is always your y-intercept. You might want to add that to that little list of things for the c. C is always your y-intercept. It will always intercept the y-axis at c. Always, right? So that is my vertex. So if I was going to graph this, this is positive 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I put a dot there. That's my vertex. And it's y equals x squared. So I go over 1 up 1, over 1 up 1, over 2 up 4, over 2 up 4. Right? And then my last question is, what is my equation of the axis of symmetry? All I have to do is look at this number. This number tells me the equation. If that is, whatever that number is, it's going to be x equals that number. X equals 0. That is, in this case, it's 0. So x is 0. That is my axis of symmetry. The vertex is always, the x is always on the axis of symmetry. Right? All right, so that's that. Now what about I guess that's all I need to do on that. Now that's all I need to do on that. So now I'm going to talk about the vertex form. All right. Can I erase this part? Okay. Now, this is the vertex form. And you're going to see why this is so valuable to know. Okay, so write that formula down. Y is equal to a parenthesis x minus h parenthesis squared plus k. Okay, so your vertex, the vertex is this. H comma k. So this is really cool because in order to graph a quadratic equation, you first have to find your vertex, right? You use your axis of symmetry formula, x equals negative b over 2a, and then that gives you your x. Then you plug your x into the original equation, you get your y. That's your vertex. Then you can plot your vertex. Then you can graph it using standard parabola, right? But this automatically tells you immediately, right in the equation, what the vertex is. So immediately you know your vertex, and immediately you know how to graph it. You can graph it immediately. So there's no calculating that you have to do. So the question is, how would you tell? So let's look at this. Y is equal to 2x minus 4 squared plus 10. What is the vertex? Almost. Almost. Notice the formula has a negative in it. That means if that said x minus 4, it would be 4 would be the vertex. 4 comma 10, right? In other words, if there's a negative in the formula, I've got to take the opposite of this. So my vertex is 4, positive 4, comma, since that's a positive 10, it's positive k in the formula, I can keep it as positive. Whatever the sign is for the k, I keep it. But for the sign for the h, whatever it is, I got to do the opposite because the formula has the negative in it. So if you see a negative 4, that's because the formula has the negative, not the number, not the x part of the vertex. So what about this one? Y is equal to negative 5x plus 7 squared minus 2. What would be the vertex there? It's going to be negative 7 comma negative 2, right? So negative 7 comma negative 2. That's fabulous. That means immediately you can go and plot that vertex, right? You plot that point, and then you can use standard parabola. Now the question is, what is standard parabola with the vertex form? Remember, standard parabola is this: y is equal to x squared. But if I had y is equal to ax squared, meaning like 2x squared, it would be standard parabola times 2. Okay? Standard parabola, if I had y equals 4x squared, it would be standard parabola times 4. Right? So where's my a in the vertex form, Lila? Right, this is my a. So if whatever that number is, I'm going to use standard parabola guy, y equals x squared, times that number, times whatever a is. Make sense? So immediately you know your vertex. You go h comma k, plot it, and then you do standard parabola guy times whatever a is. Does that make sense? See it? Okay? All right. So we don't need this anymore. All right. So let me just be sure you're going to be fine with these. What if I gave you though? Okay. So now you've got to see. So all right. So let's do a couple like this. Let's say y is equal to 2x plus 5 minus 3. All right, and let's say I ask the same questions. Does it open upwards or downwards?
Would it have a square? Upward.
Sorry, square. Sorry, there's a square there. Sorry. Would it open upwards or downwards? Where's the a? A is positive, right? Right? You see that that's an a, right? It's positive. It opens upwards, right? So 1, it opens upwards. Number 2. I want to know the coordinates of the vertex. The coordinates of the vertex. You don't have to figure it out. You just write it. What is it? What is it? Tiana, what is it? Coordinates of the vertex.
It's blocking all the notes.
I'm sorry, what? No, for this equation. For this equation. I just taught this whole thing while you guys were laughing.
That's what I heard. I heard black.
Tiana, what is it? Seriously, what is it? It's h comma k. Where's your h?
H is...
Where's your h? There's your form. Okay, so what is it? What's the vertex?
It's 5. Is it negative 5?
Yes.
Comma positive 3?
Negative. This one changes, but this one doesn't. Because see, the formula does not have a negative here. So yeah, it'll be negative 5 comma negative 3. So negative 5 comma negative 3. That's your vertex. Okay, number 3. Now I ask for the equation of the axis of symmetry. X equals what? Minus 5. Whatever this is. X equals whatever that is. Some of you guys, I can tell, are not listening. But that's the way it is. X equals negative 5. All right. So now, the last example I'm going to give is one that you're going to see that's written slightly different, but it's still in the vertex form. But it's written slightly out of order. And you have to be able to see it. Okay? So here's this one. Let's say I gave you y minus 6 is equal to 4x minus, I don't know, 11 squared.
You're on 6 to 5.
The 6 is in the wrong spot, right? So you want to move it over, right? So yeah, exactly. So you're going to add 6 to both sides, add 6. So it's going to be plus 6 there, right? So now, does it open upwards or downwards? You look at your A. Oh, upwards, right? It's positive. What's the coordinates of the vertex? Beckett.
The coordinates of the vertex are 11 and 6.
11 comma 6. You got it. And then what's the axis of symmetry? X equals 11. Whatever is in the X position. X equals 11. Right? All right. Fabulous. And so the homework is going to involve a bunch of those. And then there's a bunch of graphs. And you have to line up. You have to match the equation with the graph. It's really quite easy. If it's in vertex form, you immediately can look for the vertex. Immediately you can find the vertex from the equation if it's in vertex form. And you can quickly go over there and find the graph that has the vertex in that spot. Okay? So it's 4 sheets of 2 sides of 2 sheets. So, but I don't think they're going to take that long to do. So. So you guys can get started right now. You could probably finish the first page before The class is over.
Do you have to graph them?
You don't have to graph them.
If you look in there, it's actually super high quality. There's actually already rifling in it. You just have to barrel of like these like little plastic guns easily. I am the only one.
Okay?
Okay, no.
Bang!
I know how it feels. So you're going to be a player.
So, wouldn't it have to be a
No, they're going.
It says negative, so it's positive.
Yeah, so.
It's positive here, so it's negative.
But don't they have to be the same?
Whatever this is, it's going to be the opposite. Does that make sense? It's because of this. It's because, do I have the formula? Yeah. Because of this formula right here. It has a negative sign in the formula. So if it says plus here, that means it's a -7. It's minus a -7.
Bless you.
See, like in the formula, the k it's plus k. So if k was positive, it would still be positive. If it was negative, it would still be negative. It's just here, if h were negative, it'd be negative, which would be positive. See what I'm saying? So basically,
I'd be sick if I came over to and rewrote this. This was exactly what it's okay, guys, let's see this.
No, it's 1.
How did you do it?
I did. That one. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think it's something like
I think this is okay.
yes.
Oh, yeah. 0, 0.
Scary.
You see how you got that?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. 0. Page goes and
So it's either layer though.
what's the
There's only 2. I'll say there's 3 like there. But it can't be that one. Yeah. So it's G. Oh no, no.
what's the B? The B is what's in front of us, the plane.
Oh, 0.
Plus 0.
Gary. That's what
Eventually you'll have to write
correct. No.
B0 negative B over 2A. Correct?
Let's skip that one.
I think I wore my zap. I don't know.
But
So
It's a good. It just happened to wear my favorite shirt. So I got lucky. I was just like, okay. Well, I usually got him out.
you know how I did it? Before I tried it,
I gotta take a shower now. I gotta take a shower.
every time I jumped out of
So technically, I still took it.
okay, so I do not know how to do that. Vertical vertex. So B is remember, B is 0, negative B over 2A. That's 0 over 2A.
Wait.
I want one of the
Oh, shoot. That's a good choice.